Hello, 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 beautiful unicorns. Yana Casper coming back to you, pre-recorded for the Your Journey Becoming podcast with another incredible woman to share her journey with you, her journey of becoming the woman that she is today. And I'm so excited for Stacy to share that journey with you all. But before we hop into all of that, I'd like to do a little reminder of who I am. Those of you who don't know, and those of you who know, this is just a quick little reminder. Yana Kasperzak, Ontario of Canada, where it's really cold today and there's lots of snow. So if you're in a warm country, please send some heat this way. We could really use it. I'm a founder of Empathy Unicorn Academy and the host of Get Your Shit Together podcast, where you are listening to this series of Your Journey of Becoming, where women are coming on and sharing what they have been through that have molded them into the woman that they are today. So I would love for you, Stacy, to share with everyone just a little bit of who you are today and then go into that one defining moment that comes to mind to you of what got you on the path to who you are today.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me.
Um,
I'm Stacy. Yeah, I'm Stacy Schaffer. I am not in a warm place. I'm in Denver, Colorado, where it is very cold today. I think it's 0 degrees, which is not super pleasant, but I'm sure there's a lot worse. I am a child, adolescent, young adult therapist in private practice, and I have been in private practice approaching 20 years. And so I specialize in anxiety and grief. And a big thing, I wrote a book last year. And my very first thought when you said like the defining moment, because the deepest part of my story and healing, I didn't start dealing with till about a decade ago. And kind of that particular moment was really defining for me because that became my journey towards authenticity and healing, which eventually led to my book. So
mm. So what got you, because if you're working with young people who have gone through grief, what was it in your life that got you to want to do that kind of work?
yeah. So my mom died when I had just turned 22.
Mm.
And she was my last living relative. So like I don't have anybody related to me. And so grief like was kind of a foundational thing that I studied, researched, had a heart for, because the line in the field is like kids are the forgotten mourners, because the kids are
Yeah,
resilient, which is true, but like maybe let's not make them survive their child. Let's let them like
right.
thrive, right?
Hmm.
And so, but the reality of like that grief became my talking point. But the truth is that there's so much like shitty childhood, because we say shit because it's your title.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Like
go right ahead.
yeah, like there was a shitty childhood that predated that time, and so that's where like the deeper healing when I started to address that. But like grief is something that like it I can hold space for like all the time, and it's just I think a misnomer, like thinking that like it is like a sad thing, because I love the ability to support a kid like in their darkest moments, and I think that there's beauty in that. So
Oh, yeah, there's so much beauty in that because honestly, most people don't know how to support one another when it comes to
for
grief.
sure.
And then one thing I wanted to ask you, since you're the grief, I would call you grief expert.
Sure.
I'll go as far as to say that. I've heard this, and I feel like I've experienced it myself, recognizing that anxiety is unhealed grief.
Sure. Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on the connection with the two?
Yeah, I mean, my very first thought was that anxiety for a lot of people is normalized and easier to talk about.
Yes.
That it's like that you have a frame of reference, and Inside Out, kids therapy, gold, Inside Out 2, like had the character that was anxiety. I don't know if you saw Inside Out 2.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So anxiety like became like it was so beautiful, it became like a
Yes.
talking point and had so many conversations when that movie came out of like, what is your anxiety saying? And I
Hmm.
think like grief it can be more complicated than that. There's just a lot of threads in there. Like in the field, we don't say loved one about a person who died, we say special person, because there might be a complicated relationship with the person who died. They're like
Mm.
they're for all different kinds of reasons. And so I think that grief like hits a vulnerable layer for people,
Yeah.
and the fear that they will cry and never stop, which we know isn't true because
Well,
but
yeah.
the fear is there, and I think that um yeah, it's even though it's not fun to talk about, I think anxiety is more normalized of a topic of conversation.
No, I definitely agree with you with that because like anxiety, it's almost like if you don't have it, you're weird, right?
Like, are you paying attention? Like, have you been outside? Like,
Exactly. And whereas like I remember my first encounter with understanding what a panic attack was and then learning what anxiety was when I worked at the bank and there was a lady who was working there. She was a single mom with two daughters, unhealthy relationship with her man. So there was a lot of things happening there. And then drama at work, as you know, right? And she was having a panic attack. And to me, I've never heard of it. I don't know what it is, so which means it doesn't exist, right? But of course, I
mm,
never approach things in that way. Like you say, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. Tell me what to do, right? And and then this is where now it's such a normal thing. As I said, like some people will say, like if you don't have it, you're weird. It's almost like if you're not drinking at a party, then something's wrong with you. Or used to be, but things are changing. But with grief, this is where it's it's such a elusive experience that people are just the way that I would translate it based on my experience for me was coming from a place of having to be a good girl and not burden anybody else with my feelings and my emotions and my thoughts and my shit.
mhm.
So that what I would do instead is it's almost like another way of looking at it. It's like you know how to respond to a therapist's questions. So that way they're like, oh, you're good, you're great. Right? You know how
Yeah,
to play the
the right
role.
answers. Yeah.
Exactly the right answer. So how do you find that like working with younger adults, right? Because we're all children, let's be honest, no matter how old we are, we're all a bunch of children and like high
Right.
school is a real thing. You're living out your high school if you choose to. But how do you find they deal with grief perhaps differently than adults do?
Yeah. I mean, well, like a couple things come to mind. One is like kids haven't developed like that involved sense of shame that adults do, and so some things come easier because they don't know better to like, have those kind of filters. But the line in the field is the language of kids is play. And so a lot of like play therapy, like art therapy, like things like that, like come into place because kids don't have the words for, I feel nuanced about this. They don't say that. And so like, and a kid, a young kid isn't like, talk to me, kids like play with me.
Mhm.
And so I have my favorite board game for grief. It's so cute. It's called Doggone Grief. And it's like they took like pictures of actual dogs, and then you move your little dog piece, and it's like sad, mad, happy, like wild card, or like confused. And so it would say like it'd be like a picture of like Willow, and it says like Willow is sad since her special person isn't at her house anymore. How have you been sad? Like it asks those kind of questions. And so that like that's a popular game for like grieving kids because they're it's like cute dogs and it's like it's really kid friendly.
Mhm.
But that's like not for like the youngest of kids, but kids really gravitate towards that particular game. That's like one example.
Mhm. Well, yeah, because kids do love to play games, and we as adults, we do as well once we get past that feeling of embarrassment.
Oh, for sure, for sure, for sure. Yeah, and I think like yeah, kids are refreshing because they're just like yeah, like they don't understand, for example, like I tell them in the intro session like if you see me in public, you can say hi to me. I can't say hi to you. You can ignore me if you want. And like across like for past like decade, kids are like, but like why wouldn't I just be like this is my therapist? And I'm like, well, you can. I'm just saying, like, I am not going to do that. And they're like, but why? Like, they're like, everyone knows I see a therapist. My best friend sees a therapist. And so, like, the stigma is changing a lot for kids, which I
Yeah.
think is saving lives, honestly.
No, I agree because we cared a lot growing up, but I feel like the kids in this day and age are caring so much more because everything is so much more public than what it was when we were growing up. But nobody had a recorder walking around,
Right. So your most embarrassing moments. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And now anyone can, and the moment that they recorded it, guess what? They own the rights to that ish, right? But then who's really gonna go through, oh, you don't have the rights to my to my
Right.
use
Like,
my
take them to
face.
actually take them to court. Yeah. It's not going to
Yeah,
happen.
no, you know what I mean? But for some people they won't do it because that fear is there, but for others they'll do it, and a lot of us have seen like Judge Judy and all those kind of shows.
Oh man, she's tough. Yeah, well,
Right?
yeah, and I think that it's really hard. A big part of my platform is that the kids are growing up in a different world than we did. Just like 20 years from now, we'll be saying the same thing in different
Yeah.
worlds. And I think technology plays such a huge role in that. And I don't know what it's like where you're at, but the kids here, they all track each other, like their
Yeah, they do.
locations. Like, and like it makes sense to me for parents, like, where's your kid? But like they track their friends. And I think it's an exercise of like, how to get your feelings hurt, because they'll
It
look and they'll be
is.
like, all of their little friends' dots are in one location and they are not in that location. And so it's
Right?
like they all do it. Like it's crazy to me because and they're just like, why? And then they'll be like, why did they turn their location off? What are they hiding?
Because they want some privacy. Do you know what that means? They don't
No,
really truly know. It's
no.
funny when you're talking, but this is so true. I see this in my own house. There was a friend that my offspring had, my daughter that you saw earlier, and it was just one of those that it's a friend, but then these kind of interrogations, well, why did you turn your location off?
Yes,
Or
yes.
why you said you were going to be here and you were there? Why? Like you're not my boyfriend.
Literally,
Even then.
yeah, I know teenagers have found out that they both see me by looking at that's Stacy's office. Like what? I just think like it's just exhausting to me the stuff that feels to me that they are unnecessarily putting themselves through
Yeah.
because we already know like kids make up stories in their heads about what's actually happening, and I just
Yeah.
think it exacerbates the problem. And nobody track me. I am where I say I'm going to be, and if that is relevant to you, then it's relevant to you. If it is not, it is not.
Yeah. No, I agree. The question that comes to mind is that I know some women would be asking, that I know I would be asking if I was listening to this as a parent, what do I do?
Right. I mean, I think the best thing to do is to be aware of the things that you don't see on the phone, because I think a lot, I was talking to someone about this yesterday. As a parent, when you look at their phone, if you're taking their phone at some point, to look for some of the obvious signs of like bullying, right? Or
Mhm.
like your like mean girl group chats. Like those are things that, are red flags, blaring sirens, that kind of thing. I think that it's important to know what your kid is doing on the phone, and to know that something that they could be hurt about is something that wouldn't catch your attention. For example, a kid will come here and say, I don't have any friends. And a parent might say, yeah, you do. Like I see you with all the people. But what the kid is really saying then to me is they watched all their friends make a TikTok without them, and that like made them feel alienated, like left out, and like whether or not it's intentional, because kids are like, they know the other that kid is watching, right? And so I think to ask better questions of them, like, when they're, I don't, tell me more about what you mean, help me understand. Because say that you would look at their phone and be like, oh, it seems like things are fun. Like your friends like are nice to you. And it doesn't mean they don't have friends. And it doesn't mean they were intentionally left out,
Mhm.
but that could be the story they're creating. So I think it's imperative to maybe ask deeper questions, instead of like trying to comfort right away of like, yeah, you do. And they're
That's
like,
true.
okay, whatever. And then
Yeah,
flip hair, walk away.
that's a great point. Like asking better questions and not leading questions, because we as coaches will learn. Don't ask leading questions. Leading question means you're giving some kind of information in there that will lead to a response that you want to get, as opposed to
Yes,
just asking a
right, right.
question.
Like, you're fine, right? You're fine, right? You're fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great example. And the child will, of course, say yes, because they're growing up to be good girls and good boys.
Correct.
That is the program that we all received, th not just from our parents, but from society, from the world, from every experience, from everyone. And it's very universal. You go anywhere, any part of the world, we're all holding things for ourselves that we have experienced and not talking about it, whether it's
Correct.
grief or trauma, and all of them. And this is where unhealed grief leads to anxiety, because is what happens when we're trying to see the future, but we can't see it very clearly because we're still seeing it from the eyes of the past
Mm,
and not the eyes of what could be, but what was.
sure, sure.
And most are not even aware, especially um, at younger ages. So I'd love to know a little bit more about you personally,
Okay.
because there's always things that kind of lead us to do what we're doing,
Yeah.
and there is so many different ways to go about it. But for you, I'd love to know, what was the moment you realized the life you were living wasn't actually yours?
The life I was living wasn't. Oh, okay. So I'm. Are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, like, okay, hold on. Can't like it started to unplug. That was bad. Okay, we plugged in.
Technology needs to be fed. It's hungry.
Yeah, right? Like, what is happening?
Oh, my
Uh,
laptop, it goes from like 100% to 10% in
that's what just
30
happened.
minutes.
It went to 10%.
Yeah, it goes
Um,
so quick, and I'm like, I just need to leave it plugged in.
yeah, like what? Okay. Let's see. Well, bear with me.
Oh no, it's okay.
Okay, we plugged into a different plug. Get you a different plug. Are you happy, plug? Okay. So I had a shitty childhood as referenced. And I can get as involved in that as you want. But there was a moment like after the very most traumatic year of my life when I was like 11 going into 12. And I remember the exact moment that I was like, that was then, this is now, I'm starting over. And so in my little head, I thought, yeah, like we could just start from here. This is like surely that's we'll put it in a box. It's fine.
Right.
And spoiler alert, it was fine until it wasn't.
Yeah.
And so I remember building a life from that point to be really shiny and to get perfect grades and have friends. I mean, I got all the things and kind of built a foundation on that, which worked until it didn't,
Yep.
until we realize it outlives its usefulness.
Yeah. Isn't that always how it seems to work? Everything works until it doesn't. It's almost like I feel like it's not much different than we get that haircut and we feel great and amazing and we're loving the hair. And then all of a sudden, I don't want it anymore. I want bangs, or I want
Mm-hmm.
to get rid of my bangs if you, you got bangs, right? So we're always like, on to the next, on to the next. Because we get, I feel like maybe perhaps the word that comes to mind is complacent.
Mm.
We sometimes get complacent in that new thing that we tried out, and all of a sudden, maybe let's level it up to the next level of what is meant to be. And for you, what would you say that next level, that next version of you, that in order for that version of you to be born, the previous version had to die. So what was that
Yeah.
version of you that you feel like had to die?
Well, I mean, I remember like the moment that I started talking out loud about like the deeper story, like beneath like the grief of my mom. And that's when I first started to like do actual healing with, related to like sexual trauma and neglect and like so many things along those lines. And I think I had believed that like I would lose credibility or that I wouldn't be loved. And like I think those things weren't necessarily like forefront like thoughts, like that it was just like beliefs, that I wouldn't have a community, I wouldn't have friends. And so, but it became the pain became like unmanageable. And so that's when change happens, right?
Yeah.
And so that's when I first started like talking about things in therapy that weren't about my mom. That, well, they were, but they weren't about her death. And so I think actually getting it and doing the healing work, it's not pretty.
Nope.
It's not fun. But like at a certain point, like you don't really have another option. Like if you want to be authentic and live into the truth of who you are.
That is so true. And healing is definitely not clean. It's so messy. It's not linear. It's all over the place. It's full of ups and downs, full of, ooh, I finally got it, to then, oh, what did I
Mhm.
get? It's almost like we gotta forget it enough times until we finally remember.
Totally.
And it's definitely not easy, right? So if we're doing it alone, it's not much harder, but having the right people and the right support on that journey makes all the difference in the world, especially if you're discovering not not only discovering your authenticity, but you're trying to share that authenticity with the world, that it's like continue to rediscover yourself.
Mhm.
So how many times would you say you've rediscovered yourself throughout your life?
Oh man. Um, a, a lot. Is that an actual amount? I mean,
Hmm.
I think continually, right? Like as we heal
Yeah.
and we like it survive that it's like shedding layers, I think. And I'm like currently shedding the layer of um having like not a good amount of rest time being a flex, and so I'm leaning to like self-care is a flex. And it's hard because like when you take time off, like people have a hard time with that, and as a
Yeah.
recovering people pleaser, that's difficult. But I'm like working into the I have to I have to take care of myself in really significant ways. And so I think that that's like a current like molting that's happening. So I would say for anyone who actually cares about like growth and healing. I feel like it's a constant, honestly,
Yeah,
which is moderately annoying, but it is
it is. But it is a process, right? It's a process of changing. And we are all faced with two choices, two types of pain, a pain of change or the pain of regret.
sure.
The pain of change is temporary. The pain of regret can be permanent.
Mm,
And this is what you were talking about earlier when you were saying that until you've experienced enough pain and suffering with staying the same, only then will we change. When we're
mm,
like, we've had enough. I'm tired of things being this way. I'm done. And declare it to yourself. You don't need to declare it to the world. This is where we actually leak power for declare it to the world. But declaring it to ourselves and then showing the world our declaration to this is how it's going to be. Only then we change. Because when it comes down to change, and I've learned this through life experiences, but the iPad co-training helped to put it into words is that when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, only then we will change. Which
mm.
means staying the same, if that hurts more, and now all of a sudden changing is not so painful, you'll change. But all of that is in the mindset, right? All these different versions of all of us had to die in order for us to get here to have the mindset that we have now. So, what would you say is the quote that comes to mind that you perhaps use it as a reminder for yourself when you need it most?
Well, my favorite quote is from Les Mis, Victor Hugo, and I have it in several places in my office and at home. But it's even the darkest night will end, the sun will rise.
Hmm.
And I love it so much because I mean it's acknowledging the dark can get real dark, real dark. And but like sun eventually comes up, and then it gets dark again, but
Yes.
but like that there is like there's a beyond, and I think that that was a guiding principle for me, not the quote obviously, but it was a guiding principle like in my childhood, that like I was scrappy, and I'm like you're like you're gonna see, you're not gonna get me down, feisty.
That's
And
right.
so yeah,
Fighter.
yeah. And so I think that, with like kids with like grief or like, traumatic situations, I like to provide sort of like a visual beacon of hope, that it's like, yeah, I made it, and it doesn't mean things aren't hard for you right now, but like I know more than you because I am older. And like I say to kids, like I don't say it like that, but I know more, that, because kids can just see right there. And then like I've been up ahead, and like there is light up ahead. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's important to remind those who are behind that I've been there, I've done that, and I see the light now. It takes time. It took me maybe this long. For you, it might be half the length because
mhm.
when I'm sure when you were growing up, even anxiety wasn't even normalized.
No.
Depression, oh no, now you can have days off if you're feeling
I know,
sad.
mental health days. Can you imagine what? Yeah.
I know, no, I'm originally from Russia. You tried to pull that shit, you
Ah, that's funny. You're like, no, we don't do that.
day off? Did you lose an arm? No? Oh, okay, well, I'll see you in work.
Yeah, you're like, you're cold. So are we. Get to it. Like that's
Well, that's why some people will joke. I'll tell them it's so cold here. They'll be like, aren't you from Russia? I'm like, I didn't live in Siberia.
right. You're just like, I don't know what movie image you have
Yeah,
like in your
or
head.
in this day and age now, I don't know if you've seen what happened in Kamchatka. Apparently, they had so much snowfall that literally, like, nine-story building, half of it is like covered in snow, cars buried. Yeah, in days they got so much snow. They haven't had that in like ever. We've had lots of snow here. We had a warning this weekend, freezing conditions. So Mother Earth is. intelligent and it knows how to cool itself off when it needs to
Mhm.
and get itself back into balance. And this is what I see and hear you doing with these young people, is helping them to get into balance, which, and for them to get themselves into balance, because we as coaches, leaders that are leading them, we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make it drink. Or,
Totally.
right, help and support and give them that safe space that they all desperately need. Every human being needs that safe space to just experience grief and understand what it actually is and what it isn't.
Mhm.
Um, and when we experience grief, with grief, there is some truth that come up. And I'd love to hear from you from your journey. What was one of those hardest truths that you have had to admit to yourself throughout this journey?
I think that, I've done a lot of kids grief camps as a counselor. Like I haven't done it in a long time because I've aged and I don't want to sleep in a bunk bed anymore. But
Don't
um
blame you.
yeah, but like in the kids bereavement world, like you don't just like end up there. There's a reason. And so they always have like the counselors that are facilitating say like, I'm Stacy, my mom died from breast cancer, right? And
Mhm.
so a thing like when it's time for like what's an emotion you felt or whatever, I make it a point a lot to say I felt relief, because it's not the only emotion, but my mom had a really long battle with breast cancer. Like she was in misery. And so I think that is one of the taboo emotions, right?
Yeah.
But that like it kind of paves the way for someone else to like have freedom to admit that to themselves, or that like, there's lots of reasons why one would feel relief. And it's not the only thing. There obviously there's sadness and like all the things. But I think I first had to admit that to myself, that it was like, because I experienced anticipatory grief, which is like you're the up and down of like what's happening, because she would go in and out of remission. And so I remember when I learned the term anticipatory grief, it felt like I was so seen. I'm like, yeah. And so when it actually happened, when she died, I was a counselor at camp, at kids camp when I got the call that she died. And I think like, oh, like owning the like, phew, like at least she's not in pain anymore, was
Mhm.
it was hard to swallow, because I like to myself, like I was like, what kind of person like feels really, and I'm like a human person. That's what kind of
Right?
person.
Exactly. That's very well said. And I thank you for sharing that experience, because this is something that many feel guilty about afterwards, of like feeling relief. How dare you feel relief and feel guilty and shaming themselves for feeling relief. And for some people, they might not have experienced losing a parent yet, but they might have experienced losing a pet,
Sure.
right? And I know for me that was the case. That was, interestingly enough, that was the cherry on top of everything that I've been through, having lost the twins. I was pregnant with twin girls, and we lost them at
Oh,
5 months, at 22 weeks.
oh, that's so
And
desperately sad.
it was, took me honestly 15 years to finally feel healed enough to look at the pictures that were taken at the hospital. They were doing things differently then, and we have the CD, which was really hard to, I even went out and got a CD thing so I can look at the pictures. And then for the
Mm.
first time I had a whole different experience, where I did not see myself, I saw my husband, right? Where you no longer see yourself in that grief, but you see others.
Mm.
So it it this is where, like, I feel like the healing begins for some people. And the dog, the reason why I was a cherry on top is because we got him for me to heal after the twins, because I needed
Oh, yeah.
that
Comfort.
love into somewhere. And
Yeah.
this is where I experienced what you were talking about, the ups and downs of losing a dog, which was, to me, was my twins. and attaching them, and I learned so much through that process.
Hmm.
And it took me 3 years to heal from losing the dog. And the dog that you saw earlier was the dog that we I was finally ready to get. And she's the one that all of us love so much, because one of the
Oh.
things I learned through that process was a good dog is a trained dog and a tired dog. So I'm like, I'm getting a dog, I'm getting it tired, and I'm training that bitch. From the moment I got her, I was training her. She's
Looking at my
loving it,
sleeping dog. Yes.
right? And I know you have your service dog, your therapy dog there as well, that you use in your practice. And that's so beautiful
Mm.
as well. I was thinking of doing that with her, but she happened to not like children
Oh, that's
eventually.
unfortunate. Yeah.
I know, but it's because she was stepped on. She was hurt by a
Oh.
few of them while I was bringing her to the bus stop when she was young. And this is where she learned not to trust them.
Oh.
And then I volunteered at a senior home. I'm like, oh, can I bring my dog here? But she's still young. She was still hyper. So that ended up not happening. And I'm like, I'll just have my beautiful dog for myself. So I just trained her for myself.
Oh. Well, yeah, I got Willow, my 13-year-old golden Zoe died um in like July a couple of years ago, and um I was so crushed. And so, like, kids were constantly asking, when are you bringing Zoe in? And like, she was high energy at age 13. And I
Oh,
was
wow.
like, never. Like, I'm like, you'll be annoyed. And so, like, starting as she's been here since at my office since she was 9 weeks old. So this is the life she knows. So,
Yeah,
and so, but I think, we all know that dogs are better than people. We know this. And so I think that she's helpful to help kids heal. Like some kids will talk to her, to me. They're like, Willow, I feel. And Willow's like, okay, cool. Do you have a treat? Cool. Yeah. But
yeah, dogs are such unique creatures. They have abilities that I know not even horses have,
mhm.
right? And cats, well, they're harder to pick, but there are therapy cats as well.
They exist. I have
Yeah.
never owned a cat, so I cannot speak to that. But uh, cats are confused by Willow because she's like, "Are we best friends?" And they're like, "No."
Not today. Oh, I love that. So, thank you for being on here with me. I love to ask um a question that helps to wrap things up, where if you could go back to the woman you used to be, what would you tell her that she would not have been ready to hear?
I think I would have gone back like this could be at different points to be like, your authenticity is what is going to make you feel loved. Like this, like it's great and all, but at the end of the day, you're not going to feel known or seen. And so it's actually like your wounds and healing your wounds and talking about them that is going to make you feel more secure.
I love that. And now to the that woman that's listening, who is full of that darkness that you just mentioned, what would you say to her to help her that she's not ready to hear, that would help her to snap out of it?
I mean, I would say that like even the smallest movement towards health and healing like is worth it and significant, if that means like writing something down that you wish your inner child heard, if it means telling a friend like, I don't really want to talk about it, but I just want to say this horrible thing happened when I was little and it made me feel XYZ. Like little movements, like, and if that starts with admitting to yourself that like there's pain, then that's significant. And so
Yeah.
it doesn't mean, like, I think sometimes we think of healing as like transforming your whole life like in a week, and that's like not realistic. I think that healing is a continual journey towards like loving yourself. And so any movement you can make in that direction is the right move.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be huge. As you said, it can be something as simple as just writing and journaling things.
Mhm.
Start there and then allow yourself to evolve the way that you heal.
Mhm.
Because that's where I started. I started with writing and journaling
Mhm.
because it's like the only thing I could do. Because I didn't feel like I had a voice.
Sure.
And in order for me to use my voice, I would write letters to the people that I could not speak to.
Mhm.
Sometimes those letters were written to myself, to that inner child that I could not speak to. And as you write things, weird things come through, and you're like, who
Yeah,
wrote that?
totally.
Right? And then
You're like,
reading it
huh.
back is magical. Yeah. So thank you very much, Stacy. This has been an absolute pleasure. I got to know you a little bit more about what you do. And I know there's going to be other questions that women might want to ask you, and all the information and links to her profiles will be down below the podcast. So all you know where you can find her. Make everything nice and simple. So everything that Stacy you shared with me, I'm taking it and I'm putting it right there below the podcast.
Yay.
Makes it nice and simple. And don't hide your grief. I would say this is what I am hearing from you, Stacy, is hiding our grief and not pretending it's not there, not dealing with it is what makes things worse down the road.
Yeah, and I would say, and like for my book, people, when you'll put in the show notes my website, stacyschaffer.com, they can put in their email address and you get the first chapter of my book for free. And so I like kind of start with the outline of that, of um, finally starting to talk about your story. So I think that could be helpful, how it helped me and kind of like what I did, because my book is part memoir, part like clinical expertise from sitting on the other side of the couch for approaching 20 years. And as one podcaster introduced my book as, she said, it's a guide to not emotionally damage the next generation. And I'm like, I'm going to take that.
I
Actually,
love that.
I'm going to take it. And so that, like, even if it's like picking up, like reading part of my story, I think that it's helping you to be honest with yourself, and hopefully people feel seen and heard in my book.
Yeah. And I feel like that was the biggest point of the book as well, to help people see themselves and feel heard and seen through your eyes, through your
Yes.
experience, and see that they're not alone on this journey.
Yes.
I love that.
That's
And you also, I believe, mentioned that you have it on Audible.
I do, and it's me.
Right.
I flew to Nashville to do my own audiobook, and so it is available on Audible and Spotify. If you have Spotify Premium, it's free. And so it's there. I'm learning how many people are audiobook people. And I did
Me.
that to make it, yeah, I did it to make it accessible, because it sounds like for a lot of people it's easier to do. So if you
Yeah.
like this voice, there's 7 hours of this.
You're right. There's more where they came from, and you can replay it and listen to it as many
Yeah,
times as you want to.
yeah,
And the best way to utilize books is when you're cleaning, driving, even showering, bathing. There's so many different ways. To me, I
so many
prefer
ways.
the Audible. I love the books, but just opening and reading, my mind doesn't, it's too slow to process those things. Or more like the reading is too slow, the mind
Mm,
goes faster. So even when I listen to things faster, even
mm.
voice messages, I listen on the faster speed. And that's
Just
why when I
life,
listen regular, I'm
right?
like, ooh, do I speak this slow as well, or am I just used to the fast
That's
pace?
funny. Really funny.
But hey, it's important to understand how we take information in. And it's amazing that you put it on Audible because it makes it, as you said, available to those like myself.
Yes.
Often they probably would also have ADHD. It's hard to
Squirrel.
focus, right? Squirrel. You got a dog that likes squirrels, but probably because she's trained, not so much.
Well, there's a squirrel in our neighborhood that taunts her. And she's like, "Are we best friends?" And the squirrel's like, "Ha ha."
We'll see tomorrow. Oh, I love that. So once again, thank you very much, Stacy. I I'm sure we'll do this one more time
Yeah, I'd
at
love
some
it.
point as well. So much fun, and you're such a beautiful personality as well. And
Thank you.
I love you working on your authenticity so that way I, just like all the listeners and viewers, will get a chance to experience you.
Yay. Well, thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me. I'd love to come back.
Oh, of course. We'll see you next time. Okay,
Bye.
bye.